Every day in the USA, people find themselves in court.
So this is, okay, Mr. Boki, you just paid your deposit yesterday, and the court has now officially appointed Mr. Paul right over there. Do you see him on the left? We're set for the preliminary hearing today, and that means that this is where the court will hear testimony of whether or not there's probable cause to believe a felony was committed by you in this county. Have you been able, Mr. Paul, have you spoken with Mr. Boki yet?
Very briefly, Your Honor. He understands the purpose of today's hearing, and he's comfortable with me appearing via Zoom for today's hearing.
Okay, and that's just what I needed to confirm.
Yep.
All right. We will go on the record in the matter 25 CF 123 25 TR 688 689 and 690 State of Wisconsin versus Joshua Boki. The state appears through District Attorney Kevin Schmidt in person. Mr. Boki appears in person with his newly appointed counsel Micah Paul by video conferencing. Off the record, the court did go over the right to have Mr. Paul be here in person for the preliminary hearing and what the preliminary hearing entails. Mr. Boki, off the record, you informed the court that you are okay with Mr. Paul appearing by video. Is that correct?
Yes.
Even though you understand you have the right to have him be here in person.
Yes.
If at any time you have any questions or concerns and you need to speak with Mr. Paul, let me know, and I will briefly adjourn the hearing so that you can go outside and either give him a telephone call or go to our Zoom room and have a confidential breakout session, okay?
Okay.
All right. So is the preliminary hearing proceeding as such, Mr. Paul?
It is, Your Honor.
Mr. Schmidt, please call your first witness.
I call Greg Schaefer.
Deputy Schaefer, please come forward, raise your right hand, be sworn in, and have a seat at this witness stand.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to provide today in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And Your Honor, before we proceed, just as a foundational matter, I will make an objection as to the insufficiency of the complaint. I don't have an argument at this point to make. However, I'm making it as to not waive it for future proceedings.
Mr. Schmidt,
I'd ask the court deny the motion for lacking particularity and specificity.
based upon that and the fact that we're here for the preliminary hearing, and that is something that needs to be accomplished prior to the preliminary hearing, the court is going to deny that motion. We will proceed now with the preliminary hearing. Mr. Schmidt, you may begin.
Just before I start, I just want to make sure that the intent for the defendant today is to proceed on the prelim and not to try to do a written version of that motion right there.
No, Your Honor, I'm simply waiving it as the statute essentially requires that any objections be made prior to the preliminary. I'm making the objection for the record.
Okay. Can you state your name for the record?
Greg Schaefer.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a patrol deputy for Burnett County.
How long have you been so employed?
I've been employed in Burnett County for 6 years. Prior to that, 20 plus years in the city of Cumberland.
So do you have prior training experience with investigating drugged or drunk driving?
Yes.
Were you dispatched out to a call on August 22nd of this year?
Yes, I was.
Could you describe what you were dispatched out to?
The first call came in from Washburn County Dispatch of a erratic driver that was all over the road. I was in the northern part of the county, so I was a ways away. Second call came in of.
I'm so sorry. Can you just slow down just a little bit?
The first call came in from Washburn County Dispatch of a vehicle all over the road. They provided a plate on a tan colored Jeep that came back to Mr. Boki. The second call came in from a person that was behind him and advised they're all over the road as well, and then advised they crashed into the ditch.
Okay. When did you get involved in it?
I was originally dispatched on the first call, but I was quite a ways away. So Deputy Barker arrived on scene prior to me. So I was probably there within 15 minutes of the crash.
Okay. Did you collaborate with other sheriff's deputies on this call?
Yes, I did.
And were these sheriff's deputies who you've worked with before?
Yes.
You found the work to be trustworthy and reliable?
Yes.
What did they discover when they got to the scene before you?
Detective Carlson advised that Mr. Boki advised he was coming from Michigan going to Minnesota. When I spoke to Chief Text, he advised there was that the subject appeared to be under the influence. His stories wasn't making sense from where he was coming and where he was going. When I got there, I went up to the vehicle and looked through the driver's side window, and I seen several pieces of paraphernalia and marijuana in the vehicle.
Did the subject of the vehicle say where he was coming from, like what he was doing in Michigan?
He advised he was at a dispensary in Michigan,
What kind of dispensary?
a marijuana dispensary.
Did he say anything about whether or not he'd consumed any drugs or alcohol earlier in the day?
Yes, he advised he smoked earlier in the day.
Okay. So what did you do after you guys observed stuff in the vehicle?
I spoke to Mr. Boki briefly, and then after speaking to him for a little while, I advised him that he was under arrest for operating a motor vehicle while under the influence of of the drug, a controlled substance.
Did you detect any indicia of alcohol impairment?
No, prior to placing him under arrest, I gave him a PBT and he blew zeros.
Okay. And there were no other signs, like he didn't smell of intoxicants?
There was no smell of intoxicants whatsoever.
So what was specifically you were suspecting?
Him driving under the influence, being high, smoking from smoking marijuana.
And why did you reach that conclusion?
Based that he advised he smoked earlier in the day and all the marijuana that was located in the vehicle that we could see in plain view as well.
Okay. Did you guys eventually search the vehicle?
Yes, Captain Meade and Detective Carlson collected the evidence that was located in the vehicle.
What was in the vehicle?
Several grams of marijuana in different containers, some paraphernalia, some gummies, THC gummies.
Were any of those items like tested? How did you know they were THC?
Captain Meade field tested them and they tested positive for THC.
Were any of the items packaged saying they were THC?
Yes, she packaged them once she got back to the office and placed them in the evidence locker.
Oh, I mean, like prior to Captain Meade packaging them up, what kind of packaging were these items in the vehicle?
They were in containers from the dispensary as well that said they were THC.
Okay. So the Mr. Boki you had contact with out in the field, do you see him in court here today?
Yes, I do.
Could you state where he is and what he's wearing?
Sitting at the defendant's table wearing a black hooded jacket.
And how did everyone believe, were there any other occupants of the vehicle?
No, there was not.
And the location where you encountered Mr. Boki with the vehicle was in Burnett County?
Yes, it was.
How was Mr. Boki originally stopped or made contact with by the other officers?
After he crashed, they made contact with him while he was out of the vehicle. There's people that stopped to assist him. And that's when Deputy Barker made contact with him.
Okay. And that's also where you made contact.
Yes.
And where the crash occurred, did you state which road that was?
State Road, Highway 70, almost directly across from the St. Croix Casino in Hurdle.
Where exactly was the vehicle in relation to the road after it crashed?
It was in the eastbound lane, just next to a driveway.
Okay. Did Mr. Boki show any signs of impairment?
Yes, he was having a hard time like forming sentences and making sense of what he was trying to say or where he was coming from. It was very hard to follow.
That's part of the analysis you used when you were coming to that conclusion you said earlier about the THC impairment.
Yes.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Mr. Paul, questions?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
All right, then you may step down. Thank you. Mr. Boki, well, first, no more witnesses.
I do need to submit the prior,
Yes.
the driving record,
records.
which This is just the teletype driving record. I did highlight 4 prior convictions. I didn't know Mr. Paul would be by Zoom. Do you want me to email these to you to review them before I give them to the court?
I will take the state's word that they represent at least what the state is representing them as. So I can't say I don't have an objection, but I take the state's word that he's submitting what he says that he's submitting.
Okay. And it is the same for reference in the criminal complaint, so. And then that is the close my evidence, entering that and moving to admit it into evidence. And one of them, Attorney Paul, is the Wisconsin record, which shows 1 prior. One is the Minnesota record, which shows 3.
All right, the court is receiving the documents. And Mr. Paul, since you have not had the exact opportunity to review them, I'm receiving them, allowing you to have until the end of the day to object if you notice something out there, okay?
Understood, Your Honor.
Any further witnesses or evidence?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses or evidence, Mr. Paul?
No, Your Honor, just argument.
Well, I will allow you an argument, but, so Mr. Schmidt, would you like to go first or have Mr. Paul?
My burden, I'll go first. My argument is we heard testimony that a vehicle crashed off of a highway. Mr. Boki was the sole driver. He admitted to consuming marijuana earlier in the day. He had marijuana in his vehicle and he showed signs of impairment according to the officer. There's a low burden with all inferences drawn in favor of the state. There's also 4 prior convictions submitted in evidence. So the state would ask for bind over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
Your Honor, the burden that the state has is to prove that a felony was committed in Burnett County and that Mr. Boki probably committed that felony. I concur that inferences to the state suggest or provided testimony that a vehicle crashed in Burnett County, that Mr. Boki admitted to smoking marijuana earlier in the day, and that teletype of his prior convictions were admitted into evidence. However, I don't believe that probable cause was met to show that a felony was committed in Burnett County, and I believe that for 2 reasons. The first being that possession of THC is not a felony. Admitting to smoking marijuana prior to operating a vehicle is not a felony. The state needed to provide probable cause to believe that Mr. Boki operated a motor vehicle under the influence of a controlled substance, and I don't believe that the state provided sufficient evidence to believe that probable cause exists that Mr. Boki operated a motor vehicle in Burnett County while under the influence of a controlled substance. That reason alone, I don't believe that the court should bind over. My second reason is I do not believe that the court has laid probable cause to believe that even if Mr. Boki is in the inferences in favor of the state operated a motor vehicle while under the influence of a controlled substance, I do not believe that that the evidence submitted today is sufficient to show that that was a felony offense. I admit that the state put forth evidence in that it was the teletype that was submitted to show that Mr. Boki had priors, but I don't believe that the state submitted evidence sufficient to show that, first of all, foundation for that teletype evidence, and second, sufficient to show that the arrest was made with the understanding and the knowledge that this was Mr. Boki's, that Mr. Boki had priors that would have made this a felony offense. I don't believe that even with the inferences made in favor of the state, I don't believe that the state has met its burden to show that a felony was committed by Mr. Boki in Burnett County, and I'd ask the court not to bind over.
Rebuttal.
As to the first point, I think that's why I asked Deputy Schaefer about signs of impairment. that showed the lack of clear judgment and steady hand necessary to operate a motor vehicle. I think what Mr. Powell is getting into is really discussion about, we can't just say RCS before getting the blood, but that's not what we put forward today. I think what we did for intoxication is sufficient given the standard for this hearing. The second argument about the arrest and it's a felony, I don't know that that's relevant for a preliminary hearing, so I don't have much response to that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Boki, in a preliminary hearing, the burden is relatively low. The court has to determine whether a felony was probably committed and probably committed by you. And in hearing evidence and hearing testimony and reviewing evidence, the court must look at those things and give the light most favorable to the state. Other arguments that are set forth as to credibility or the extent of any allegations, that's for later things, for motion filings, as well as perhaps a matter for the jury to be able to determine those things. But the burden here is low, and the court has to look at, again, the evidence in the light most favorable to the state. And in hearing the testimony of, and I can't tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing or tying facts to certain things and making a bind over decision, but in hearing the testimony of Deputy Chafer, that there were a couple calls in, and the calls were matched up with your Jeep, even though there were no smell or anything of THC. It was testified as to some signs of impairment, and it doesn't have to be a lot of impairment, taking into account the law of operating under the influence of a restricted controlled substance, and taking into account the driving record that has been provided to the court. So based upon that, the court will find that there is probable cause to believe a felony was probably committed and probably committed by you in Burnett County. As such, I will bind the matter over. Information, Mr. Schmidt?
I filed the information. It mirrors the criminal complaint.
Would you like to proceed with an arraignment here today, Mr. Paul, or set it for another date?
I'd ask that the court set it for another date, Your Honor, solely for the reason that I haven't had the opportunity to discuss with Mr. Boki the things that would need to occur if we decided to pursue them prior to the arraignment.
That makes total sense to me, and it is totally fine with me. December 19th at 11. December 19th at 11, that's when you're coming back here, Mr. Paul.
Understood, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, anything further?
Not from the state. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Then we are adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.